Ever wonder how your boat's doing when you're not there? Ever wonder if you've got water in the bilge that isn't pumping out because your batteries are drained for some reason? Or worse yet, has someone broke into your cockpit and taken all of your fishing rods? Someone boarded your boat. Is there a problem with your boat? If you want to know, you need a monitoring system. And so we chose this Skyhawk Oversea system, which is really great because it's so easy to install. It all works, it's all self-powered. Each one of the various kinds of sensors that they provide, they're all self-powered and wirelessly connected to a base unit, which then syncs up the information, to a satellite, where it then comes down to your app, where you can get notifications via text or through email or both. And it's a really great way to just monitor, what's happening with your prized possession when you're not around. I'm going to show you a little bit about how I installed things today and where we did it, and the peace of mind that we are achieving with the Oversea system. Let's take a look. First thing I'm going to be doing is down in the bilge. I'm going to be installing the high water detector, which will send me an alert if the water line in the bilge reaches a level that where I set this, where I predict it to be a dangerous level. So basically I'm going to fasten this to an area that is at the water line, and this is the unit that it's attached to that would detect and send the signal. This is where the kind of the brains of the sensor is. This all works with a central monitoring system that's linked up to a satellite and basically cellular. And so what it's able to do is it'll send you alerts via text or via email if this is tripped. So very easy to set up. Right now I'm just going to fasten this where I see the high water mark, and then this unit will be a much higher. We've got a 4-foot cable here, but no hard wiring into any monitoring system at all. It's really just this RF signal transmitter that draws very little power and lasts for years. Okay, you can see I've mounted the bilge high water sensor well above where it can get wet. You don't want those to get wet, but the sensor is the actual sensor connected to the wire that detects the water once it's made contact, is about 2 feet below that in my bilge. And so now I'm all set. Don't have to worry if that water ever comes up that high. I'm going to get a text, I'm going to get an email, and I'm going to be alerted to something being wrong. Okay, now I'm in my cabin and I keep a lot of stuff. This is a pilot houseboat. It's got a small cabin. I keep fishing rods. And it's one of the areas that's vulnerable, and the most vulnerable area on any boat for theft is the hatch. The hatch can easily be pried open, and it doesn't really do much to deter. So this is a great spot for an entry alarm and a sensor. And so right here we got the Skyhawk Overseas sensor, and when these two pieces, one is mounted onto the sill, the other onto the window, and when this opens up, I'll get an email, I'll get a text alerting me that this has been opened. And so really cool. All you gotta do to test it is open that up, and in a minute I'm gonna get a text. Okay, also in the cabin inside I have this cabin door, and there's a sensor here, another entry sensor with its counterpart here. Once those separate, when this door is opened, I'm going to get an email and I'm going to get a text, and it'll have an audible alarm. The app is great and easy to use, and it just alerts you when the door's open. Okay, this is the central hub that monitors all of the sensors that are hooked up and active on this boat, whether it's the entry gate, the hatch gate. I've got my high water sensor, we've got the bilge pump monitor, the battery monitors, we've got motion detection. All of that is constantly being monitoring, and if one of those sensors are tripped, it sends a signal to the hub. The hub then links up, and it gets word to you, whether you have it set to a text alert, an email alert, or both. You're going to get a notification that one of those sensors has been tripped. This needs to be mounted face up in an area where it's going to get the best possible signal or transmission. And I think we got a good place for it here. Okay, this is a THW sensor, temperature, water, and humidity sensor. And these you want to put in places that are generally dry. And you want to, if you want to be able to detect water intrusion or humidity and temperature, some people put these in refrigerators on their boats. I don't have a refrigerator, but I want to detect excessive humidity and certainly water that would intrude into the cabin of my boat. So I'm going to install one of these where, very similar to the high water sensor in the bilges, this has a water sensor as well, and I'm going to have that go kind of to the hull, you know, the bilge area that's toward the bow of the boat here, underneath my cushions and some of the hatches down here. I'm just going to keep this there because, you know, you never know if water gets somehow into the front areas of your boat. You know, this is going to give you that alert. So very easy to install. You know, really all you're doing is adding a device to the main hub, and you know, you scan the QR code and it detects that the device is on and it links up to it, and then it shows up in your app and you're off and running in terms of monitoring your boat. Let's put it in. Okay, I'm in the bow of the boat here in the cabin, and you can see that that's the flooring, and there's a access port to get to the bilge area there forward. And you know, if water ever gets in there, that's a problem. It's an indication that something is wrong, and it's a great place for a water sensor. So here's the Oversea's water sensor that's connected to the module itself for the temperature, humidity, and water sensor. This is going to be mounted somewhere down there, and you know, somewhere out of the way, and in an area that would be suspect if there was water at its height. And then the unit itself is going to be mounted on this wall in here. Next up is the battery sensor. This is pretty straightforward. You've got a red and a black connector. These just go to the respective red and black connectors on your battery. Should be your house battery, because that is really the most important when it comes to your bilge pump. So again, just loosen the nuts on your battery and fasten these two clips there, and then you're going to mount your box somewhere inconspicuously, and that's all there is to it for the battery sensor. Okay, and the next part of what I'm going to do is install the passive infrared motion sensor. And so this does exactly what its title says, and that's going to detect any movement. And so if someone were to come into my cabin and you know, try to get into the cabin, break through the door, or even worse, try to pull out my electronics, which I have, you know, like all of you, have expensive electronics in the boat. So I'm going to mount this inside the cabin, kind of facing as if you were coming into the cockpit area. And it'll detect any motion when I'm not here, when this is armed, and give me an indication that something is someone has boarded the boat. And so what I'm thinking of is putting it right up in this area here. And if I put it here, you know, there won't be birds, won't see birds. Hopefully this is a good spot. I'm temporarily putting it up there with some adhesive tape just to see if this is going to be the ideal location for it. And you know, that's going to stay there. That should be fine. And what's really great about it is it's right next to my hub as well, so I'm sure it's a very strong signal. I use shore power to keep my batteries, which I have 5 of them, charged, and I want to know all the time that the source of power from the shore coming to the boat is always active. And so Overseas has another sensor for that. Now this is really great because every time I plug in shore power when I leave the boat, I also plug this in. Now all you have to do with this is plug in a USB. And so I have a USB port here. So once that's plugged in, it's able to detect if shore power is getting to the boat. And you know, we could look at the app and see the status through the Oversea's sensor for shore power, and it's a real help. You know, I'm not going to actually mount this anywhere because all of my USBs are in plain sight, and I don't just want to wire there all the time. So every time I plug in, I'm going to take this. Every time I plug into shore power, I'm going to take this out, plug it in, and I'll know remotely that everything's a-okay. It's a really great way to just monitor, you know, what's happening with your prized possession when you're not around, and you know, the peace of mind that we are achieving with the Oversea system.